Welcome everybody. Good evening. I hope you are all doing well. Today I was going to continue on the self-reliance we were talking about, um, and hopefully everybody is here uh, is interested in that and then participate in that. Okay, so I will wait for a few minutes for the people to join in. Meanwhile, I will introduce myself and my activities. And good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Rao. I'm an internal medicine physician. Had practiced more than 40 years in the United States, and now I'm on the more like a semi-retirement. But at the same time, I have an online wellness company that's called Be a Pal, uh, where I developed services by fusing both the modern medicine and ancient wisdom. I'm a yoga practitioner. I am a student of Advaita Vedanta and Ayurveda and other Eastern traditions that have a lot of holistic health principles. So when I try to help people with health problems or mental health problems, I kind of combine both modern medicine and ancient wisdom. As a part of that service, I have been doing rooms on the clubhouse for about 2 years now. I've been talking about wellness, how to optimize our wellness by cultivating inner resilience with exercise, deep breathing, and being in the present, meditating, and being mindful every day, all that. I've also been coaching people who are burning out because of the excess work and technology. And my coaching program really helps them to develop that inner resilience again, with which they can face the challenges of life. They are not away from the life or some exotic thing, but more like a practical hacks that we can adopt to really cultivate that inner resilience so that we can face our regular daily problems with a lot of power inside, right? So it's kind of empowerment from within. You know? And also have been training people in leadership uh, by being servant leaders. That means providing service to other people, always attending to the needs of other people, and cultivating such leadership is good for the leader and also for the people who are being led by them, right? So this was all kind of studied the ancient wisdom of the sages, the rishis, and munis, and borrowed from them. And I'm putting them together in videos, in courses, in my posts, and all that. Okay? This particular house is named after my company, which is called Be a Pal. Okay? Be a friend, and based on that, I've been coming here and really fulfilling the four pillars of wellness: diet, exercise, sleep, and also mind control. Those four pillars, if you do very well, we can be optimally well for a long time and also spend time in vitality and joy rather than just taking medications and surviving. So part of that series I've been doing on energy, on self-independence. This I call self-reliance. That's the topic we have been talking lately, and this topic is about being independent psychologically within you and being available to the society and do the jobs what you can do without being really dependent on anything or anybody. If you start being dependent, that's fine, but then you can really inculcate the qualities that can empower you from within, whereby you will be the source of support to other people, right? That's what I was hoping to do. I was going talk about uh, ancient way of looking at life and dividing it to four stages. Not necessarily everybody has to go through these four stages, but generally, suppose you are living up to 100. That was the norm in those times, right? First quarter of your life, you kind of self be a student, develop your skills, education, and all that, so that you can get a job and you can get a family. And that is the second stage where you are a family man. Okay, you are a student, and the second stage is you are a family man. And then after the certain years of having kids and raising them and contributing to the job and all that, you kind of go to the third stage where you kind of want to give back to society. Okay, and that is when you are middle age and you're reflecting on life, what is coming and all that, right? But basically you are involved in giving back. That is the third stage. And the fourth stage is where you really develop detachment to the regular things of a young person or middle-aged person, and you will be looking forward to understand things in a much deeper way and also develop this detachment. In Sanskrit terms, they are called first student age. Also, they wanted students to be focusing on the studies and arts and whatever they are learning, and that way they required them to be celibate. Okay, understand life before you get into all those sensual activities, right? That was old age, but that was old timer. That is okay. And then, as you are into the stage where you are forming a family, forming a livelihood, a career, and all that, that's when you are into the marriage and have the kids and develop them and all that. And then that third stage, as I said, we're going to make them uh, really pay attention to what is society, what can we do for the welfare of that. So second stage is called grihastha. That means you are a family man. Gruha means home, right? And third stage is called Vanyaprastha. That means you are kind of slowly retiring from this regular family life and then reflecting on that. Okay. And then fourth stage is the most important, where you have developed, you have seen the life, so you have developed a detachment to it, and then reflect on deeper aspects of life and what is life about, what is death about, what is the human life is all about. That kind of fundamental questions, existential questions you go into. Okay, those four stages are something that people really stuck to them because the society structure was like that. They were sent to a guru or a teacher who was living in the forest, and then his job is to just impart all the knowledge he has practically with the kids. So the kids spent most of the time with this teacher at his house in the forest, but then they led a simple life, and then they learned a lot of things from him. And they got all the education free because the teacher did not charge them anything, but they paid only after the education is done, whatever they want to pay. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, it could be other things too. So after the education is done, then they're fully prepared to handle the life. They are rigor in their body, in their mind, in their knowledge, and then they come and they get married and they get settled down. They get a job, and then they kind of enjoy the family life, the kids, and all that. Right? And as they are doing it, they can also can earn some livelihood and all that. So, in that student stage is very important for them to understand even the deeper aspects of life. They talked about what is the eternity, what is the eternal life, what does the human life mean, and all that. But then they were allowed to go through the normal stage of life where you seek some pleasure, you make some living, and all that. But they did not become the primary psychological factor. That's important to understand. There's always this understanding life as a whole from the beginning, but then not going to the too much of depth, but just touch the subjects and then they left it. And they allowed the life to teach them. So, as a student, you have to live by yourself with the teacher, without the parents. So that kind of bred some self-reliance. As a young person having the family, you have to take responsibility for your wife and kids, or husband and kids, and then thereby you have to develop this self-reliance and really having this confidence to face the life. And as you are into the middle age, and you kind of see whether you have grown to be psychologically dependent on things and people, and how to execrate yourself, and then really preparing yourself for the deeper understanding of life in the last stage. Hope that makes sense to you. So those are the four stages that people went through, and then because that was the culture, and people generally adapted to this, and the people who are really understood these four stages, they led a very normal, joyful and happy life, or facing difficulties with a lot of courage. And then they retired, and then they found the meaning of life, and then they died peacefully. That was the theory, right? But of course, so many variations will be there. But generally, that kind of way of life was presented and glamorized and also celebrated. So many people really spend their time like that. Okay. Um, and here in modern life, we kind of introduce the kids to not celibacy, but opposite of that. Sensory pleasure and accumulating, or doing everything for yourself. So that kind of things. So they grow to be really vulnerable to the exposure of the senses, and also they are developing ego, and thereby they are kind of working for themselves in a restless manner, right? And then when they really want to accumulate wealth because they're psychologically insecure and want to fill it with things and the money and the people, that becomes a problem with finance, right? When you are dependent on things, obviously you are not reliant on yourself. So, understanding modern life, how it has taken the ways it has taken, fundamentally, you can see sensory pleasure and ego development as fundamental ways we are going about it, and we are breeding a lot of suffering from them. Okay, for example, sensory pleasure, all the addictions, all the discussions, all those things that are going on, which kind of destroys a structure, a family, a marriage system like that, right? And then we kind of breed a lot of suffering out of that too. Uh, People may say we are sophisticated, we can handle, but if they're honest with themselves, most of the people are really weak, and they're doing these things because they are not help it. They cannot help it, right? So that's one thing. And also turning to outward things and making sure all the technology is solving the problems, rather than going inside and then spending the last years at least towards this inward orientation, inward study, and really understanding what the human being is made up of. That is lacking in modern life. So that's why I brought these four stages, how they used to be, how they are doing that. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense for you, because once you understand that, then you can develop self-reliance by going for what your life is meant to be. You are very open-minded. You have beginner's mind as a student in the first stage, so you can study and learn a lot, and then not being distracted by sensory pleasure. You can focus on your learning very much, right? And then as you grow into a young man and young woman, normal desires and normal hormones and all those things. So a safe way of expressing them was to structured way of having that kind of thing, right? And then having continuing the tribe by having kids. Those kids will carry on their legacy, right? And then when you are earning, also you are not earning for selfish purposes, but then you are also thinking about the welfare of the many or common good, right? And then after all those things are done, you slowly develop detachment for these things, and then retire, and then engage in self-inquiry, self-knowledge, self-study, and all that. So, if there is a penchant for this, it is very, very rare. Most of the people don't find this palatable. They just want to have something enjoyable, entertained, and then don't want to think too much, or they want to addict to alcohol, drugs, and all that, and then have a lot of psychological problems, and then they don't want to really put the effort by themselves. They want to somebody outside, like a therapist, a psychologist, like a philosopher. Somebody has to give them direction so they may listen. Most of the time they may not listen also. But you go to the therapist, you spend time and money, and then you remain the same in your self-dependency and really weakness inside, right? So understanding these principles, relying on your inner self, is what I'm getting at. Okay, if you can really understand your own weaknesses, your own strengths, and then you work on the weaknesses and really come to the strength from within, then you can go through the life much more joyfully, easily, and also do not have to spend a lot of energy unnecessarily. So that's why where you what our ancients found out about mind, about our inner self, about our joy and abundance within all those things, right? So whereas we go for the happiness outward in things, they went for happiness that is already there in our inner self. Okay, calm your mind, and then you can feel that. That's what they said. So you got to experiment that. You have to experience that. You have to really feel it within yourself. That cannot be done by somebody else's words, but they can point out. But you have to do the experiential thing. Okay, all these areas are very important for a lot of people, and they come to that stage at some point of their life. They have indication about it, but then there are so many multiple theories, multiple arguments, multiple conclusions by the mind, and people get caught in that. So calm yourself, take some time away from the regular life, and spend on your inner reflection, what's going on in you. Out of that, be learning about yourself, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you experience, all that be evident to you. And then by slowing it down and by attending to each emotion, each thought, and all that, you can change that to something positive, something beneficial, and at least you can reduce the suffering that way. Okay. So this is not just a few words and then a few sentences, but this is involves diligence, involves integrity, involves sincerity and truthfulness to face as we are inside. And then we can see the change within us coming out in the acts, in the way we deal with the people, in the day we with the environment and the resources that we use and all that. Okay, so this is really a personal, individual quest, but then you can always use the wisdom that is already there in our sciences, in our history, in our cultures, in our texts, and all those things that were there. But they're only pointing you towards the direction you have to take, and then you go towards that direction. Okay. Um, that's what I wanted to talk mostly about, how people miss this whole thing in lifetimes. But if somebody can get on in that direction, they may use their religious instructions, or they may use their philosophical understanding, they may use just their inner intuitive awareness and feeling, and they may go on that way. But eventually, you get to do it by yourself and alone. They also talked about how we come to the world by ourselves, by alone, and then how we go out of the world alone too. So even your spouse or anybody, you can travel together. That would be very wonderful if you can do that. Lots of times it's not possible because everybody has their own way of going about it. But if you have a companion that has the similar path and going in there, not exactly the same, but at least understand the importance of inner path, then that will be wonderful. But if not, you got to choose to be alone in this quest and march towards it with gutso, with joy, and with gratitude. Okay, and that path going inside is really open to everybody. And these days, people are really coming about it. So I have seen a movie the other day, Awakening the Mind, on YouTube. That was wonderfully produced, and they talk about this all the time. That anybody is capable of, everybody is capable of turning inside and look who you are, and then live like that. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense for you, and hopefully people who look at this replay will be able to talk about that. So you can enjoy the music for a couple of minutes while we take a sip of water and see if anybody else joins us. Then we can have a discussion if they are interested. Okay. Lots of times people are okay. Let me take a break a little bit and then we'll see. Also, this Clubhouse update is causing a lot of commotion, but I found so far it's good for me, and I will only invite people who are interested in this. And if they come, that's fine. If they don't come, that's fine too. I'm happy to express what I feel and go from there. Okay. There are people on the Wisdom app here, so see if anybody is interested to come up and talk to you are welcome to come up. Otherwise, I'll be closing in a few minutes. There's a lot to talk about this four stages of life as described in the ancient times. And by and large, a lot of people adopted this in the world, not just according to them, but in many cultures have the same kind of components. But I found this very fascinating, the way the school years for us, we were students, we didn't know all this sensory pleasure. We were told to study and get better, and they were focusing on our moral character, on our how we are applying ourselves to the studies and all that. That was the virtue, right? So we were not exposed to these weaknesses like our kids are now. We can educate them, but still a lot of effort is needed. Many children are suffering because of the overstimulation. Okay, that is there. And then when we're looking for jobs and all of that, they taught us duty for the sake of duty, which was a very important concept for us. But later on, all this making a living and greedy about the things, all those things came into that culture too. And then now it is the same as the West or America, wherever this ego building, wherever this sensory pleasure, all those things have overtaken the culture. That was really very few people are remembering these things too. So I think I talked about 20 minutes or so. So that's good enough. If anybody wants to come up, we'll discuss. Otherwise, we'll close the room for today. And then I will discuss these four stages in the upcoming rooms a little bit more. If anybody has any questions or any better ways, they can also come and discuss them. Okay, I'll be seeing you again tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the evening. Maybe talk to 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Thank you.